Welcome to A
and J
Podcast.
podcast.
Um, how we feeling? And the year's almost over, man.
I'm excited. I'm excited, man. How about
Yeah,
you?
crazy. It flew by so fast. I feel like it was just like last year we were at our friend's, basement and just like chopping it up, and now it's like the year flew by like that for New Year's, from New Year's Eve to like another New Year's Eve now.
That's what I'm saying. Time just flew. You know what I mean? But that also means either we were very busy or you're wasting
Yeah,
a lot of time.
for sure, for sure. How do you feel like you progressed this year, man?
Man, I felt like I took some leaps and bounds, took a lot of risk,
Yeah.
but I knew it was going to come down to this or it was going to be a repeat of last year.
Hmm.
So I feel like a lot of progress. And I know we'll go over a little bit more. But I'll say number one was goals, you know what I'm saying? And really trying to knock out some serious things and holding myself accountable. How about yourself?
Yeah, for sure. For me, it's basically a lot of internal work. I feel like I spent a
Mm,
lot of the year going within and, yeah, I feel like there's so much things to unpack. And like once you strengthen your own mindset, get rid of the baggage that you have, you eventually come out so light and capable of giving love and producing and creating for the world. Yeah, last year's been a lot of leaps and bounds in terms of my mindset. And so I
yeah.
feel free to be able to do the things that I want to and pursue the passions that I have. So yeah, and that just makes me more excited about next year and all the goals that we have set up. And so I know you got a bunch of goals that you already just finished up recently. So I'm curious
Oh, yeah.
how you went about building that out.
Man, so it was kind of interesting. So there was actually something I popped up in my feed, talking about creating like a bingo sheet, and I was like, okay, bingo sheet. What does that mean? But basically, what you do is you do like a 5x5 or a 6x6, even a 4x4 bingo sheet, and what you do is you fill in each block with goals, and the whole objective is just to get them crossed out and complete bingo. And so for me, I was like, oh, that's so awesome. So I kind of set all my goals and put them in. I even did mine recently for the year coming up. So I try to make them, as big as I could, because remember, even if you set the goal, if you don't achieve it, you still have a goal that you're getting close to. So that means you got as close as you could to it, or you completed it, or you surpassed it. And so I think a lot of times success comes down to setting goals. And so that's something that I'm really trying to strive for this year too, as well. How about
How
yourself, man?
how'd you come down before I ask that question? How'd you come
Yeah,
down to the 25 goals or 16 goals that you did have in mind? Like how did you, because there's so much information out there, so many goals that you want to do, so many things that you want to achieve. But at some point, you have to get very specific about those goals. How'd you come down to those goals? Because
man.
like
So
just lack clarity, including myself. Sometimes I'd be like, there's so much I want to do this and that and this and that and this and that. And especially when you're young and you have so much energy within you, it's just like you have to focus. Where focus goes, energy flows. So it's just like how did you come down to the goals that you do have right now to achieve for the next year?
so there were like three standards that I kind of set for those goals, and it was one was okay, how am I getting closer in my faith with God? How am I building with that? Another one was how am I getting better in terms of, say, for instance, family and personal goals. Kind of like you talked about a little bit earlier, how am I getting better in that area? And then also at the same time, how am I also working on my business and my career? How is that developing? And so I kind of set out different standards in terms of what I wanted to achieve. So for instance, for example, I was looking at my business goals. I was like, okay, how can I hit a certain amount of income? And then also at the same time, how can I also grow the business where, say, for instance, more consistent in certain areas? So I kind of set parameters around that. For like personal goals, family goals, I was kind of sitting towards, okay, how am I going to get better in my relationship with the people around me or creating new relationships? One of them was trying to find mentors in specific areas of my life. And then stay closer to my faith was, really, spreading the gospel instead of, just for myself personally, which is also still something that's very important to me, like getting closer with God, but also in the sense of, say, for instance, introducing other people or bring people to church with me or things like that. So I have a certain amount of people I have to invite for the year, and a certain amount of things I have to achieve within a certain amount of time. So I have the year to do those things. I know one of them, I know we both might have this on our goals, is doing a smoker or a fight for Muay Thai. So I know we were scheduled for February. But do you feel like you're ready for that goal to achieve by February? Or you might have a little more time.
I gotta work on my cardio well before I can do that. But maybe late
I'm
this
with you.
summer and after that, you know. But me and John actually went to one of those, underground or smoker fights and things like that. And we saw the intensity and passion those people have. And it just you could tell like everyone in that building had worked on their craft at some point and is
Mhm.
capable of defending themselves, is very strong and just seeing them fight just was so inspirational because I know the people that are from our school um worked very hard. We saw them
Yeah.
work very hard and are some of the best people at our school. So it just brought so much inspiration for us to actually try and do that as well. So
Oh
uh,
yeah.
big goal is to next year focus on improving our cardio, improving our skill sets, and be ready to actually participate in a fight, a Muay Thai fight. And so that should be exciting.
Oh yeah. And we'll let you guys know for sure. So I have people have been telling me, let me know. Listen, I'm gonna be there. I'm like, oh Lord, I gotta really put my work in for this one.
What's funny is like most of our friends actually ends up wanting the two of us to fight. Although it would make for good entertainment.
Correct. Our coach is like, we don't want it. You know what I'm saying? We want you to fight somebody else outside of the school. So yeah.
Yeah.
But no,
Um,
that's kind of like the right now the parameters of my goals. But I know something for you too as well. I guess like even for some of your clients and even for yourself, like how important are goals to our clients, but then also even for yourself looking forward. What do you feel like the success of setting goals in the new year?
yeah, so it's funny that you kind of mentioned the whole how you broke down your goals, how'd you end up with those set of, bingo goals, if you will. You said there were sections like you had something related to God, you had something related to family, you had something related to business. And so the way I make my goals and my vision is also very similar. Like I have like four categories. It's really just health and wellness, mindset and spirituality, business and finances, career, and then the last one is family and community and relationships, essentially.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so I have like a long-term vision associated with it, right? But then the more shorter term, the next 5 years, the next year, the next 3 months type of thing. And so that's kind of how I break down my goals. And so in terms of health and fitness, it could be something as simple as like, you know what? I want to get back to my original deadlift weight of 405, right? I
Yeah,
saw that story on
I
my
saw
Instagram.
that. Look nice. Yeah.
But I used to do that 3 years ago, but I'm not that at that level yet. Let that level now. So I want to get back to that strength level. But also participate in a smoker fight, right?
Hmm.
It's kind of like I have goals around health and fitness. And so there are goals around mindset and spirituality of being shown gratitude and reading certain number of books in terms of developing my mindset. And there's more goals around business, career, relationships, community. So it's like having those four structures like areas helps me like think
Hmm.
like, okay, thi- if I could master these 4 areas of my life, then I feel like I have done the right things. I've checked off all the boxes in order for me to live a more like a very fulfilling life.
Hmm.
And so that's kind of how I go about it. And in terms of how I help my clients out, it's really um I think I don't know if I mentioned in the last podcast, but I've been trying to niche down a bit more and more productize my services a bit. And so really just focusing on just creating a system that can just be copy and paste and doesn't take a lot of time for me to implement for my clients. Because right now, a lot of my clients experience like a lot longer cycle of working with me, but I just want a simple copy and paste system that they could just run with. And you know, for me, I just want to make it easy for them to adopt my system, and then make it easy
Hmm.
for myself to also implement it. So um, the ideal goal is like by next year I will have two VAs, and I will essentially be having them run the business, and I'm just gonna be monitoring it because I
Smart.
think I found the formula as to how to systemize it. It's just a matter
Hmm.
finding product market fit, but really it does not need me to. run it full time per se. So
That's right.
really just building systems around my business. So I'm excited about that, and in turn also help a lot of my clients. So
That's good. That's good. And I was actually there's a book called Get Smart by Ryan Tracy,
mm,
and great author. But in the book he was talking about a lot of times people think it's the 1% that's successful, to the 99%. But what he said was, the it's really 3% to the 97% because say for instance, only 3% of people set goals.
mm,
And because only 3% of people set goals, they're the ones that get closer to achieving things every single year. And I think a lot of times, for ourselves, we don't have any goals that we've set for the new year. Or if we do, is New Year's resolutions. And
yeah,
so we're done by the time January is done. Once that month
I-
is done, we just kind of reset into our old ways. So it's really important to kind of have those things set in stone and kind of trying to achieve those goals throughout the year.
right. Why do you feel like a lot of people are they have an aversion towards setting goals, and maybe they don't set goals the right way? I'm curious why you think that is or what you've observed.
One of the things from the book that was said, even I think for myself that I've had in the past, is the fear of being held accountable, right?
Mm,
And trying to achieve something that you've never done before or you've never seen before. And you feel like if I fail, people look at me the wrong way. But you kind of forget sometimes, even if you get close to it, um, wow, like you've achieved a lot that was never done before. Think about it. When we first were doing Muay Thai, about a year ago, like we didn't know anything. We were getting our butts whooped. I remember I got punched into the wall. I remember like you
this is
got
my
kicked in.
story.
I was like, what's going? We getting like beat up out here. I was like, this is kind of crazy. But now we can hold our own. We can maintain, even though we're not at the level that we want to be at. We're 10 times better than we were a year ago. And so I think a lot of times people are afraid to go through the process of the pain, the storming phase. And so I think a lot of times people they love the honeymoon phase, what it looks like, or they love, say, for instance, the reform phase, or say like the actual like performing phase, where say like you're at that level. But think about it, even when you started working out, to get to the goal that you're trying to get to right now, to lift a certain amount of weight, you weren't there at one point in time. So
Yeah,
it took you a amount of storming, reforming, what I'm saying, honeymoon phase of kind of getting through that to get to that performing phase. And I think that's the hardest thing for a
right.
lot of people.
Do you feel like there is a misconception as to how that stage even should be experienced? Like people might think it's all sunshine and rainbows, but then when they get there, it's not what they thought it would be, right? And so there's two ways to look at it, right? Like, I think I remember seeing a video of Alex Ramosi talking about like, okay, did you think it was gonna be easy, right? And then they're like, no, I didn't think like going out like it's like, hey, did you like if you sign up for a marathon, and then
Mm-hmm.
they're like kind of like crying that like, oh shoot, I can't do this thing, right?
Yeah.
And the simple question would be like, did you think it was gonna be easy? And they'd be like, oh no. And so, okay, this is what you expected. So good. Okay, this is
Right.
what you expected. So like, it's nothing new. And then that helps reset them to reset what expectations they had about it.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's also another way of creating perspective around it where you actually do enjoy the work, the storming, the performing
Hmm.
area, and people should work on spending more, showing more gratitude to the work that they do, like consciously being more grateful to the work that they do, because that's gonna just cause an effect of like affinity to the work. Because every time
Correct.
you do something, if you're hating it, then naturally you're gonna not want to do it. It's like creating habits. Like
Correct.
it's like every time I talk to you, if I'm like, oh, I don't want to talk to this guy, I don't want to talk to this guy. Obviously, I don't. Next time I have to be in a situation where I have to talk to you, I'm gonna feel some form of aversion to you.
Yeah.
If in the moment of you doing that things like, hey, listen, I know this is hard, but I'm really grateful that I'm pushing myself to this. I'm grateful for this feeling. I'm grateful for these actions that I'm taking. You're gonna cause a level of you're magnetizing yourself to this feeling. And so
Yeah.
you are gonna want to run that marathon. You are gonna go after the goals that you've set for yourself because you love the process of it. And you're not hating yourself while doing it. You're actually loving it while doing it.
Correct.
So I feel like people drop off because of that as well. Just they haven't found a way to love the process in which they achieve the goal.
And that's it. It's really the process. Because think about it. Everyone wants to have a get married or have a relationship or a successful business. But I think we glamorize things too much, especially from social media to entertainment. Everything's glamorization of
Right.
the glamour life, but forgetting that it took time to get there. I think, in the past we would kind of have more storytelling, so you would know it was a process to get there. But now I think people just kind of show the end result, and so people think that's what they want right away. But it's like you're waiting at the finish line, but the race never started.
Mm-mm.
And so I think a lot of people need to start the race or prepare for the race to get
Right.
there. And so I think a lot of times, I think we mentioned this before, a lot of times people are really in motion where they're just in the same place like a hamster wheel instead of being in action, where, say, for instance, they're constantly moving through a trajectory or a process that they have set up. And that's a lot of times the biggest issue for a lot of people is they want to stay in motion or look like they're doing something like they post on social media or I'm at the gym, but when you see them, they look the same. Their body hasn't changed. They haven't really, no goals has changed. Their endurance hasn't, nothing's changed. And so I
Right.
think a lot of times we're more fascinated by what we see online compared to what we see in person or in reality.
Right. 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 Social media is, I could go on. That could be a whole 3 hour topic that we talk about, man. I'm realizing the effects of it myself, just like in my life as to how I go about doing things. Do you feel like
Mm-hmm.
it affected you in some way? I mean, I consider, you're a successful dude. Like you're constantly focusing on improving yourself. How do you feel like social media, despite it, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
despite your motivation, how do you feel like social media has affected you or your peers? Because I'll be honest, it's heavily affected me, and
Yeah. Yeah, I agree because we have friends that travel a lot or friends that do different things. So automatically we think, man, this must be like the life. But
Mhm.
not knowing they probably did a lot to get there or do certain things to get to that stage. But even for myself, I think at one point I used to kind of post a fantasy. And I think I realized during the pandemic where I would just kind of post things to kind of create an image. Like I would post Bible verses. Oh yeah, but I'm doing the opposite. Or I'm posting parts of my relationship when really it wasn't going well at all, you know what I'm saying? Or different things that just really weren't true.
Mhm.
But once I kind of woke up and kind of came to the self realization, this is not me. This was never me. I
Mhm.
was never big on social media and these things like that, or really posting these fabricated things of my life.
Right.
Now I'm like, let me post more authentic things. So if you ever see my social media, you see that it's mostly like weddings. Say for instance, it's mostly business content or things that I'm going through personally or things that inspired me. So I had to change even the methodology or even the things that I post to resemble who I am more. So when you see things that I post, that's more authentic to me. So if you see something at the gym or whatever, that's me. I'm not gonna post fancy cars, things like that's just not really my thing. I love cars, but I personally may never buy an expensive car unless say maybe who knows, maybe in the future maybe that might be changed. But right now at this stage, I feel like I just want to stay very humble, very modest. That's kind of like who I am at the core. And that's why I really want to portray if that's who I am, who I say I am. You know what I mean? But how about yourself?
Oh, I mean, we grew up like we weren't born with when social media was active, but like we grew up through it. Like, when
Yeah,
Snapchat first came out, we are like actively like on it. And
yeah.
we kind of adopted that technology, and I just see in myself like I use it as an escape mechanism. I've noticed it. Like
Mm,
it'd be like, I have this hard email to send. Like I'm like, hey, listen, like I don't want you to like it'll be something like it's hard. Like I'm essentially um rejecting someone for something or like it's some kind of hard thing to do. And naturally, to make myself feel bad, I'll go on my phone. And it'll be
mm,
like a half a second, split second. I'm like you won't even notice yourself thinking like, oh, I don't want to send this email. Before you even think that, like your body feels that, and you just automatically gravitate to your phone. And so I
yeah,
started noticing like how um how subtle these cues were, and I would just cues to pick up my phone and go and scroll through Reels or TikTok. And I had to get that thing off my phone. I would just have it on my laptop. That's pretty much it. And so, realizing that was an escape mechanism from hard things for me, I was like, okay, this is no longer gonna take space in my phone. If anything, I have some blockers, um,
yeah. That's good.
making sure that I don't. use it. And so 100% like I think social media does create like does it makes us create like a facade both for ourselves and our view of the world.
Yeah.
The reason that's dangerous is like it's a facade. Like when you build something on a lie, everything underneath is gonna make sure it crumbles. Right? Like you can't like I don't know if you watched a show called Chernobyl on HBO. Have you watched
Chanel. Yeah, 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 yeah. Uh-huh.
the show where they were doing the whole documentary on Chernobyl?
Yeah.
There was this scene at the very kind of towards the end of it where it's essentially the lawyers talking about like what went wrong. And And he was saying how like, people lie and lie and lie and lie to the point where they don't even know what the truth is anymore. And so what ends up happening is like because no one knows what the truth is, everything's going to start crumbling down.
Yeah.
The case of Chernobyl, the nuclear disaster that happened, it's like that one employee was like, I'm gonna record the temperature at this nuclear facility 98.7 or something. I'm making up these numbers, by the way.
Yeah.
But it's like, it didn't pass the test, but it was like 1 degree off. That would be okay. And that 1 degree off is like, okay. And then the next day, same thing happens. The next day, same thing happens. And then the
Yeah.
manager looks at it and it's like, it's fine. Like, he checked, he says he checked it. So he's gonna trust it. He's not gonna double check the work. And so this little lie, and the manager lies a little bit, the employee lies a little bit, the executive lies a little bit, the scientist lies, and everyone just lies. The small lies create this whole facade, and no one knows what the truth is anymore because if they'd been truthful in the first place, like everything they would have seen like there's some faults happening at this nuclear facility.
That's real.
So yeah, in terms of social media, like that same thing happens because you have this false idea of how the world really functions and this false image that you're also trying to portray onto the world. Like, hey, look, I'm actually cool. Um, and so it's definitely it's definitely a false way of portraying life, or it helps portray a false way of life. And that's why
That's
you
real.
have to ground yourself to the goals that you have, right? And
Yep.
that lets you really stick to the process. Like, not the things on the social media. You have a specific set of things that you can really, really focus on, and that becomes the foundation for you to enjoy life, not doom scrolling through social media. So,
Man. And you hit it right on the head, man, because I think a lot of times we're just in this trance of just hopping from thing to thing,
yeah.
video to video, person's page to page. And to be honest, the most successful people that I know most times are people that you're not seeing on social media. You know what I'm saying? Because they're so busy doing things to achieve their goals and achieve their dreams. And I think something we also have to realize too with social media, not everyone's really making money. Like a lot of data has been coming out about social media influencers or people that are online, and a
Mm,
lot of times they're making less than $5,000. That's like the average. So
mm,
some content creators are making a lot of money, and some
right,
aren't making anything. But then you also realize these guys are kind of like, the new celebrities, like new artists that you see that
right.
they get a front or a loan or a certain amount of money. And if they
Mm,
run out of that money, there's nothing left. So it also comes down to like money management once again. If you're not managing what you have, you'll lose it too as
right,
well. And it's the same thing with your time. If you don't manage it
right.
properly, you'll lose it. You know what I'm saying? You'll miss out on those goals that you wanted to achieve for the year.
Sure. Speaking of money management, do you feel like this is a prime time of the year for your clients to start getting involved with you as well?
Oh yeah. So right now I'm doing client reviews, sit downs, like right even this month. So a lot of times I said, well, for me, the year's already started.
Yeah.
December, the year started. We're starting strong right now, setting things up into motion or gearing them up. So once the year hits, it's the ground running.
Right.
And so I think a lot of times I like to do a lot of client reviews right now, and then also the beginning of the year to kind of get them ready. Because then also tax season hits right away. It's right there in April, it comes
Right.
right in your face. So it's also a matter of, say, for instance, we have to get things aligned now so that they can also prepare whether they're a small business or individual trying to get their taxes done. So it's a lot of that right now.
And if you were to give me advice, let's say like I'm trying to get my finances right this year. I wanna budget my work, my expenses, savings, XYZ. If you were to give me a 30-second answer to like how can I get my finances together in the next year and set
Yeah.
myself a financial goal? what would you say I should do?
I would say one of the biggest things you can do right away is creating a strong financial frame, or I'll call it a budget. That's basically, for instance, okay, 15% of my income or whatever I make needs to go to putting away for myself, for investing, emergency savings, etc. The other, say for instance, 65% or so needs to go to your bills, expenses, those things along those lines, etc. And the rest can go to, say for instance, make sure you're maintaining a healthy lifestyle, your diet, those different things like that, your health is taken care of, or say whatever you're not spending in that, put it back into that 15% to make sure it's invested and put away so it's growing out. So I would say that's something very important, creating a strong financial frame, and at a minimum have at least $1,000 saved, for emergency savings. So those are a couple of different things to kind of get yourself on par, because that financial frame too will help you with just the budgeting and some of those other things, reducing debt, because you'll put a game plan in place for yourself to kind of really look at a strategy and kind of conquer it for the year.
And how would you adjust it? Let's say if I have a goal of purchasing a house in the next year.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how would you advise someone who's like, hey, I want to buy a house in the next 5 years and I want to, I want to save up money for it. How would you adjust that same framework? Because you mentioned 15% investing slash savings, 65% towards any bills, right? Like, so electricity, phone, rent, all that stuff. And then 20% towards other expenses regarding your health and so I'm curious, would you adjust it in any way if I were to have like a more urgent goal? I want to save up for a wedding, or in this case, let's say I want to save up for a house.
Yeah. So you want to be a little more aggressive, then I would say, hey, we need to really cut back on, especially depending on what your income is, right? That's something too. When people think about buying a house, you need first to look at your income. You also want to kind of go through a different, checklist, right? Where, say, for instance, you have a quality agent, so you're vetting different agents. You're looking at, say, for instance, who the mortgage officer is. Look at, say, for instance, the area you want to live in. Go on some like houses. Go, to open houses. Look at different things to see what's going on. I think a lot of times that's planning, right? Because when you purchase a home, that's a major purchase because
Right,
you're committed to that for say 30 years at a minimum. You know what I'm saying? That you're paying on that home. So you want to make sure you find something that is good quality. Now, if it's an investment property, it's a little bit different. And you want to find an agent that's going to fit your goals and that's not going to try and rush you and to
right,
purchase
right,
something where it'll put you at a detriment. So it's like also making sure you have your saving goal, your credit is right. So it's really kind of mapping that out. And I would say finding a good team around you to help you with that. I think a lot of times when I sit down with clients, I tell them, hey, come to me for these decisions. 'Cause I've had two examples where I've had clients that have come to me and worked with me, and I work with their agents and people like that to make sure that their budget was on par and they weren't overspending or using an entire loan where say now they're at a detriment for the finances going forward because the mortgage. And I've had situations where people they didn't come to me, they went on their own, and now they're really strapped for cash. They're looking for extra jobs just to pay to live in a home that should be a home, but now it's really more of a situation where it's a debt or a liability because now they're exerting more income or more of their assets to that. So I say just being mindful of that too as well.
right, right, right. I feel like there's so much opportunity when you start structuring like set specific goals around. When you have a certain goal, you can really develop your life around it, right? You
Yeah.
know exactly. It's like the mind is like almost like a goal-seeking mechanism. I think it was mentioning in one of the books that I read called Psycho-Cybernetics, and it talks about how your mind is a goal-seeking mechanism. It's like if you don't give it a target to go towards, it's gonna
Mm-hmm.
wander around making all the different mistakes. It's like let's just say I want to grab my phone. This is my phone right here, and it's like leaned against my laptop. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't have a goal, my hand's gonna be wandering around. But if I have a specific goal, your mind naturally would go to it, right? But
Correct.
because I know I want to grab my phone, I will grab my phone, right?
Correct.
And so that's the same way in every area of life. If you don't have a specific goal around these areas, then you're gonna struggle very much in terms of even finding purpose, right? Because you're not really heading in a direction. You're not creating purpose because you're not heading in a direction.
So
And
good.
you know, and sometimes maybe the goals that you're striving after aren't really your goals as well. So that's a different topic. But set goals because let's say if you do want to buy a house, then you could really plan out your finances. Like you can start thinking, how am I gonna adjust my expenditures? What
Mm-hmm.
kind of people do I have around me? And that becomes the things that you do and get involved in the day and the process that you fall in love with. And Yeah, set some goals. Set some
That's it.
get yourself
That's
a
literally
video
set the
board.
goals.
Write some sim. It could be very simple, easiest thing. If you're not used to goal setting, just it could be as easy as like, hey, I want to like run 5 miles
Yeah,
by the end of the year.
yeah,
Like simple as that.
yeah.
It started with simple, but you will prove to yourself that you're capable of doing. So yeah,
So good, man. And that's it, man. Like you said, number one thing of goals is purpose.
yeah,
So it's like, guys, set some goals, even if it's one goal, two goals, three. Set something where it's like, hey, I want to achieve this. And if you do, you'll be so happy. Even if you
mhm,
don't, you'll get close to it and you'll be like, man, I did so much better than what I thought. Set
yeah,
a goal, create purpose for yourself, and you'll see so much change in this year coming up. So I'm so excited for so many people,
for sure.
especially for us, man. We got a big goal. I know one of the goals I put on there is 52 episodes. So we got
Yeah,
some big shoes.
we're gonna have to do it weekly then. We're gonna have start having some guests on soon as well, so I'm excited
Yes,
about that.
yes.
I'm excited about where this is going, and honestly, I just love having conversations with my brother Jonell. Like, regardless of
Same, brother.
where this is going, I know I appreciate you and being able to have conversations with you like this on a weekly basis. And keep it pushing, really.
That's it, man. No, I'm excited, man. I think where we're at right now and where we're going, I think is only just the beginning. And the fact that we got past the 3 episodes, I
Yeah,
was like, we hit that one milestone.
yeah,
Now it's just time to kind of just constantly just keep pumping the
yeah.
content out,
Got to
creating
get to
good stuff for people.
21. 21 episodes is the number. I think it's if you get past 3 episodes, you're in the top 10% of podcasts that have was ever released. If you get
Dang.
past 20, you're essentially in the top 10% or top 10% of the 10%.
Wow. Hey, look,
So we just gotta get to 21 and we already got
let's
way.
get it.
Um,
Let's
but
get it, man.
on that note, we wish you guys a happy Merry Christmas, Happy New
Yes.
Year, uh,
Yes. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Enjoy, and we will catch you guys soon.
For sure. Take care, everybody. Peace.